about the tools and techniques of guidance and counseling. In guidance and counseling, we had studied about different approaches. Basically, there are two approaches whenever we are talking about techniques and tools of guidance and counseling. These two approaches are testing and non-testing techniques, or you can say qualitative and quantitative techniques, or qualitative approach and quantitative approach. In qualitative approach, and yesterday we had covered about the quantitative approach. In quantitative approach, we had studied, we had learned about the testing, test as a tool of data collection and information gathering regarding the guidance and counseling of students in a school setting. Likewise, we had studied about psychological tests, and we had studied about different types of psychological tests that are used, that includes intelligence test, aptitude test, test of interest, and test of multiple intelligence as well. And we had also studied about sociometric devices and sociometry, and we had learned that basically socialization or sociality of a student, that is a that can be measured through sociometric devices or sociometric tests. And in a school setting, a teacher usually only apply achievement test to assess students' knowledge, to know about the problems faced by a student in their learning. Today, we are going to study about non-testing techniques. Basically, non-testing techniques are the qualitative approaches that we use in guidance and counseling. There are multiple approaches that we use in qualitative testing. That is, it is called non-testing techniques. These qualitative approaches include interviews, questionnaires, case studies, and observations. Today, we are going to cover these four tools for collecting information when we are giving guidance and counseling to our students. Among these four tools, observation, interview, and case study. These three approaches are purely non-testing or qualitative approaches. These are the qualitative tools for collecting information from the client, from the students, in order to guide them, in order to assist them, in order to provide counseling. And as far as questionnaire is concerned, it can be qualitative in nature or it can be quantitative in nature. It depends upon the formation of the questionnaire that we develop for our students. Usually, a teacher rely on three approaches or three tools in the classroom. These tools are observation, interview, and case study. As far as questionnaire is concerned, when teacher is conducting a classroom test, he is giving a questionnaire to attempt, he administer a questionnaire to his students. That is basically a tool to collect information and to help out them. That is also used, but major today's major focus is on three components. These three components are observation as a tool for collecting information from the respondents, from the client, from the students, interview, and case study, in order to assist them, in order to guide them, on in order to provide them counseling. Now, first component is observation. As you know, very well that observation is basically just depend upon our own judgment, what we are observing, what we are watching, what we are uh, regarding. Now we'll come to the observation as a tool. In observation, you know that teacher collect information from teacher is a keen observer as well, and he is continuously observing his students whenever he's teaching in a classroom. Now, this observation gives a lot of information to a teacher, and through observation, teacher learn about students' interest, students' motivation, students' body language, and a students' interest in the studies as well. As far as observation is concerned, there can be a tool to collect, there can be a checklist to collect information from the students on in order to observe their behavior, their attitude, their personality, their perceptions. These things can be studied by a teacher in the classroom, and usually a good teacher always have a good observation in the classroom. Either the students are well motivated and they are participating in the classroom and they are behaving in a proper manner. This observation give a lot of information of teacher. Likewise, during the process of counseling also, a teacher, and during the process of guidance also, the eye contact, the study of the students' body language gives a lot of information of teacher that how he should proceed and what type of responses are there from a student. Likewise, observation in the classroom, observation in the school, and when our providing one-to-one guidance or one-to-one counseling, at that time of at that time also, observation is a very important qualitative approach through which a teacher can assist, a teacher can guide his students properly. Now we come to another component, that is interview. Basically, interview is getting information from the respondent, from the client, from the students to whom the teacher is going to provide guidance and counseling. Basically, interview, it can be structured interview, it can be semi-structured, it can be non-structured. There are three types of interviews that a teacher can use whenever he is collecting or gathering information regarding the problem faced by students. Basically, the major purpose of collecting information is diagnosis, because whenever teacher is listening to a student, actually he's gathering information to diagnose the problem. Where does the problem lie, and how a teacher can help a student? There are multiple types of interview as well. These types include, as I've told you, diagnostic interview, employment interview, admission interview, and likewise informative interview, research interview, counseling interviews. There are many types of interviews that are conducted in institutions. But we are talking about interview to provide guidance and counseling. Through interview, we collect information from we ask questions from our students, and the responses of our student or our client, because in guidance and counseling setting, a student can be called a client as well, because the psychologist who provide, the school counselors and psychologists who provide counseling in a school setting, they use the word client for to whom they are providing guidance and counseling. Basically, why interview is important and how interview is helpful for a teacher, because interview is a very good tool. It, although information can be collected on a paper, it can be collected through a questionnaire as well, But interview helps us to study the body language of a person, for face reading as well, for learning about the pitch of the sound and their face expressions, all in further information. It means that when we are collecting information through questionnaire, if it is not a face-to-face interview, it is a just collection of information or responses through email. Although the responses are there, a lot of information can be derived from those responses. But interview has a cutting edge uh, on the other types of data collection tools, because through interview, teacher can collect subsidiary information as well. Teacher can read between the lines as well, and teacher can get a lot of information. And likewise, if there are, as I've told you, that there are three types of interviews that a teacher can conduct. It depends on the teacher. These interviews are a structured interview. The structured interviews are those interviews in which a teacher asks pre-planned questions and he doesn't deviate from those questions. He asks only those questions. Usually, structured interviews are conducted when teacher is using any protocol, teacher is using any standard guide of guidance and counseling, and teacher is using any collecting any particular information that he has been asked to collect from the students. But usually in counseling and guidance, when we are providing counseling and guidance to our students, the best way of collecting information, the best mode of collecting information is semi-structured interview. Semi-structured interview, as the name depicts, name explains itself, that in semi-structured interview, some questions are there already pre-planned and pre-designed, and some of the questions are asked during or developed during the discussion. Means the question arises from the question arises from the answer. The teacher then explore and try to dig out in-depth information from the student through semi-structured interview. And usually in guidance and counseling setting, semi-structured interview model is applied, and that gives a lot of information to a teacher to understand the problem of his or her students. And then the most important thing, whether the interview is structured, semi-structured, or non-structured, remember, whole information during the interview is recorded. It is written on the paper by the counselor, or it is recorded through audio recording, or it is recorded through video recording, so that a teacher can analyze properly, and teacher can have a intensive and extensive analysis and evaluation of the problem of a student, so that a student can help him, oh sorry, a teacher can help his or her student properly. Likewise, after the provision of interview, the teacher gives solution, proposes solution of the problem, and then go for the follow-up as well. And what is typically asked in a interview, certainly interview can cover, it depends upon the type of the problem faced by a student. It depends upon the problem, what type of problem a student is facing. It is either it is a social problem, it is a psychological problem, it is an academic problem, it is a family problem, it is a health problem, or it is a career problem. What type of problem the student is facing. And as I've told you that there are different theories as well. And during the conduction of an interview, and teacher will apply different theories. Teacher will try to dig out information. Teacher will try to collect more and more related and relevant information to the problem, so that student teacher is in, bring him in a better position to assist and guide his student. Now, the other type that we had told you, that there are different tools that we use in collecting information and understanding the problem of a student or in providing guidance and counseling to our students. Interview and observation, these are the major two non-testing tools. These non-testing tools are also called qualitative approaches. Now we come to the third one. Third one is the case study. Case study is a type, or it is a mean of collecting information. Through that mean, we collect information from our students, but it is a case study. Case study basically it involves studying an individual or a phenomena in detail, or an in-depth study of a single individual or single entity. A case study basically it is more in-depth, more extensive, more intensive in nature. And because in a case study, a counselor or teacher as a counselor takes only a single student and study his physical, social, emotional, academic, and familial problems very deeply, and gather a lot of information about those components, and then he is in better position to assist his student. It is similar to interview, but interview is just collecting information through a face-to-face meeting. But as far as in case study, in-depth information is collected from a single person through during a long period. It is extensive as well, and it is extensive as well. Both characteristics are there. Now, three more components. Preliminary information means initial information is collected about the client, about the student, age, gender, parents, age, education, occupation, income, number of brothers and sisters or number of family members, likewise social status. Similarly, past history or past information is collected. This is very much important. And as I've told you that there are theories like theory of segment fraud, psychoanalytical theory, psychoanalysis. In that theory, we collect information about the past of a person in order to understand the present of a student. Because if we'll know the past of a person, then we'll in a better position to understand present problem faced by a student. Similarly, we further come to other theories as well. The present condition. In present condition, the humanistic approach is applied. In other ways, another way, you can say that a counselor or teacher as a counselor apply integrative approach or holistic approach, and he apply different theories in order to understand the problem, in order to guide his student, in order to provide counseling to a student in his depending upon the problem, in order to assist him, in order to normalize his life. There are different approaches. We had studied yet now three major approaches that are qualitative approaches through which teacher gather information. Teacher can use observation, teacher can conduct interview, and teacher can take a client or take a student as a case study. And case study basically it is very in-depth. Uh, it is a process of getting in-depth information. It is a mean to collect in-depth information about a single person. It is a very detailed study. It depends and it continues for, it can last for weeks or months or even for years, depending upon the situation or problem. And then the major purpose of the case study is to solve the problem of a person. There are different rules as well when we are conducting a case study. Now, again, as I've told you that when we are observing or we are conducting interview or we are following a case study, every information should be documented. Whatever information a teacher is collecting from his student, all information will be recorded and it will be kept in a file, so that this information could be used in future for further help, and it will be become an anecdotal record of that person. Likewise, there are some rules for making observation, and I have told you that observation is also a way of collecting information. It is observation again. The observer must be descriptive in taking notes. It means that whatever he is observing, he must describe his observations in a written form, not orally. The observer must gather information from the different perspective. The information collected must be validated and triangulated. Validated and triangulated, it means that if a single person will observe, possibly his observation, he will miss some aspect of that information. But if number of observers are increased, there are two observers or three observers of the same phenomena, the our observation is more valid and it will be triangulated. This process will be called triangulation when we are cross-checking our information through other means as well. Likewise, the observer must separate descriptions from judgment. It means that the observer must be objective in nature. He must show objectivity. He doesn't, he must not show subjectivity when he is collecting information. Personal judgment should not be included, and it should not be a judgmental in nature. Whatever he is observing, he must record it. It should not give his own judgments at that time. Why observation method is used? Because observation method, if we are asking a student to fill a questionnaire or give us information on a paper, possibly that information is not so reliable. But when we are observing our student in a classroom, in a school room, a school setting, this information is more reliable, more valid, and more scientific, because it is uh, biasness free, and the opinion the opinion of a student will not affect upon the observations. Whatever teacher is observing, it is his neutral point of view only. Observations are most economical method of data collection. Likewise, observation economical means there it doesn't require so much time, it doesn't require so much money. Observation can be flexible and it can be used in different situations. It can be used in classroom setting, it can be used in playgrounds, it can be used in a free time that is given in a school, and it can be used at any time during the schoolroom settings. Likewise, observations can be applied on people of all ages. Psychologists usually depends a lot on observation when they are working on some problem. Either they are developing a theory, or they are giving a new theory, or they are trying to understand their clients. Suppose even in behavioral science, um, majority of the information, likewise doing experimentations on animals, is totally observation based, because when we are conducting experiments on animals, on rats and rabbits, we can't ask them, we can't conduct their interview, we can't ask them to fill a questionnaire. We make our observations, and on the basis of the observations, we then collect information, and then in the light of those observations, we make our judgments, and we develop theories, and we give new theories as well. And likewise, observation can be applied to groups as well as individuals. And this point is very clear, that even if students, some children, they are working in a group or playing together in a classroom or in a play area, a teacher can observe them silently. Either they are in group or they or individually. These do not require much training. Likewise, observation is a very simple process. Just a simple intelligence is required to make observation of a situation. In guidance and counseling, and you know that a teacher in a classroom setting, it's your own personal experience. Possibly, you would have observed in past that teachers, a good teacher, always is a good observer as well. He has a good observation in the classroom, and these observation makes his teaching effective. These observation enables these observations enable a teacher to help his students. Help in what? Help in uh, academic learning, help in social adjustment, help in psychological problems, to solve psychological problems. Observation gives a lot of flexibility and a lot of information and a lot of power to us counselor to understand his students, to understand his the situation. Similarly, one more practice that is a common component of all uh, data collection, that is follow-up. Either we are collecting data through testing, or we are collecting data through non-testing tools. Likewise, either we are collecting qualitative information or qualitative data or quantitative data. In both cases, follow-up is a very important component. And follow-up, because in guidance and counseling, we provide solutions to our students. We suggest solutions to our students. In follow-up, we try to know what was the effect of those solutions. Either the proposed solutions of the problem were functional, did it help our student to solve their problem, to overcome their problem or not? And if yes, then up to what extent? If no, then why? Follow-up gives enables a teacher to revisit, to redefine, to restudy the problem, and to again, it enables a teacher to give, to provide second stage of guidance and counseling. If a teacher provides guidance and counseling to his student, if his proposed sol- solutions of the problem are not effective, then teacher will provide next stage of solutions to his student. When that next stage solutions are possible, that is possible only and only through follow-up surveys. If a teacher doesn't get information from his student that what happened to you after getting counseling, or what, how the counselor, how the counseling was helpful, or how the information was helpful for him, if a teacher doesn't get information regarding these questions, then, if in other words, if there is no follow-up, then there is no progress. Because follow-up is very compulsory and important component when we are providing guidance and counseling to our students. Further, follow-up of any a follow-up of information, or follow-up proposed solution, or follow-up of our students will help the counselee in understanding himself. The counselee gain an insight into his strength and weaknesses. Counselee means here student, the person whom the counseling is provided. The counselor is a person who is giving counseling, and the counselee is the person who is getting counseling from a teacher or from a counselor. In a schoolroom setting, a teacher is a counselor and a student is a counselee. Likewise, through follow, a student becomes conscious of his character and feelings, and it further enables the counselee to use the knowledge acquired to bring about changes in his life. Because through follow-up, when a teacher asks a student that up to what extent his problem had solved in the light of his suggested solutions, or in the light of his suggested in the given guidance, that guidance or that solution of the problems will enable the student to use that information to bring changes in his life. That was basically our unit number 4. And in unit number 4, we had yet covered tools of guidance and counseling. And in tools of guidance and counseling, we had studied two approaches: qualitative approach and quantitative approach. Now, the next component of your unit number 4 is techniques of guidance and counseling. In these techniques, we have directive, non-directive, and elective. These are three approaches that we apply whenever we are conducting or we are providing guidance and counseling to our students. If there is any question, the time is for question answer session, please.
Sir, what is different between quantitative and qualitative approach?
Good question. Basically, when we are gathering information in the form of numbers, values, as suppose we are assessing our students through achievement test, and in achievement test we are giving scoring our students, giving awarding the scores to our students. We are suppose we have conducted a test of mathematics, and in the result we have awarded scores to our students: 5 out of 10, 7 out of 10, or like that. These are the numbers. Likewise, if we are assessing or estimating the intelligence of our student, and we say that we have estimated that our student has an intelligence of 110, then that these values are basically quantities. And when information that we get, it is in the form of numbers, that is called quantitative approach or quantitative data. Or in other words, when we are getting information in the forms of a number, that is quantitative approach. And when we are getting information in the form of text, words, characters, that is called qualitative. Suppose, likewise, if I am asking about the opinion of a student or about anything, if I am asking about the perception of a student about any problem or uh, any phenomena or anything about in the school, he will certainly, when I am asking about perceptions, he will try to describe. When I am asking about the opinion, he will try to describe. When I am asking about any information, what type of problem he is facing and what are the reasons according to him and what makes him afraid of anything. And now these explanations, these perceptions, and these opinions, these are not numbers. These are the basically word of mouth, or simply these are the statements of a student. It will be in text form, not in numerical form. When the information available is in the form of a text, that is basically qualitative information, that is called qualitative data. And when any approach through which we get qualitative data, that is called qualitative approach. And any approach through which we get data in the forms of quantities or numbers, that is called quantitative approach. The, in other words, we can say that if the available information or collected information are the values, are the measurements, or are the numbers, that is called quantitative approach. Because in quantitative approach, we try to measure what? Suppose through achievement test, we try to measure to assess their learning. Through intelligence test, we try to measure their intelligence. Through aptitude test, we try to assess the level of their aptitude in a particular field. Likewise, through qualitative approach, we we don't measure anything at all. We just try to make estimations. We try to make our to get information, to know about something through qualitative approach. Any other question, please?
Sir, as you told in semi-structure, that questions are pre-planned, and teacher tries to ask question to question. Then what is non-structured
Huh,
interview?
very good. Non-structured interview is an interview in which teacher doesn't have any pre-planned interview questions. जस्ट लाइक इसकी अगर मैं मिसाल दूं आपको, अगर हम फर्ज करें एक किसी शख्स से मिलते हैं अननोन बंदे से, जैसे फर्ज करें हम बैठे हुए हैं कहीं पर एक तकरीब में, शादी की तकरीब है, और बराबर वाली चेयर पे कोई बंदा आके बैठ जाता है, उसके साथ हम बातें करना शुरू कर देते हैं। उन बातों बातों में हमें ये पता चलता है कि ये बंदा फलानी बैंक में काम करता है, इसके ये फलानी यूनिवर्सिटी से इसने ग्रेजुएशन किया था, फलाने साल में किया था, और ये वहाँ पर फलानी जगह पर रिहायशी है, और इसने फलाने फलाने एग्जाम भी पास कर रखे हैं, और फलानी फलानी लैंग्वेजेस भी जानता है। तो ये सारी इंफॉर्मेशन हमने जानी उससे बातों बातों में। जब हम बातों बातों में बहुत सारी इंफॉर्मेशन किसी से लेते हैं, दैट इज कॉल्ड नॉन स्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यू। हम उससे इंटरव्यू ले रहे थे, जो हमारे सब बराबर में बंदा बैठा था, इंफॉर्मेशन ले रहे थे, लेकिन वो प्लान नहीं था। हम घर से सवाल लिख कर नहीं लेकर गए थे कि हम जा रहे हैं किसी पार्टी में और वहां से बंदे से कोई ऐसे सवाल पूछेंगे। जब सवाल प्री रिटन ना हो, प्री प्लान ना हो, दैट इज कॉल्ड नॉन स्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यू। और जब हमारे कुछ सवाल प्लान हो और कुछ सवाल उसी वक्त हम बनाए, जहन में आते जाए, हम पूछते जाए, वो कहलाता है सेमी स्ट्रक्चर्ड। और जब सवाल हमारे प्लान हो, जैसे टॉक शो में होता है 5 सवाल पूछे जाते हैं, फर्ज करें